The advice you have heard more than any other for stiff, aching, poorly circulating legs after 60 might be the very thing quietly keeping you stuck. Stretch more. That is what nearly everyone gets told, and stretching is genuinely good for you. So let me be clear about that right from the start, because I want you to keep doing it. But there is one specific thing your legs are begging for that actually drives the pooled, sluggish blood out of your lower legs and pushes it back up toward your heart, and ordinary stretching barely wakes it up. I'm Dr. Mike. Over the years, I have cared for a great many people who did everything they were told. They stretched every morning. They propped their legs on a stack of pillows at night. They wore the compression socks their doctor handed them without a word of explanation. And they still sat down across the desk from me with feet that were cold no matter the season, ankles that puffed up like dough by the time the evening came, a heavy burning ache that settled into the calves, and that frightening unsteady lurch they felt whenever they stood up too quickly. They were putting in the work, the problem simply would not budge, and they could not, for the life of them, understand why. Here is what nobody had ever taken the time to sit down and explain to them. Poor circulation after 60 is not some small nuisance you are meant to simply accept and live alongside. When blood stops flowing well through your legs, small cuts and little sores heal slowly. They can turn into stubborn infections, and in the very worst cases, people end up losing toes or part of a foot. It is also one of the earliest warning flags that the heart and the arteries themselves are already under real strain. By the age of 70, close to 1 in 5 adults has what doctors call peripheral artery disease, a narrowing of the arteries that feed the legs, and the majority of those people have no idea whatsoever that they have it yet. So this is worth understanding properly. And before you click away because you assume you already know the whole story, stretch more, put your feet up, drink your water. Give me just 2 minutes. Because the reason your feet are still cold at night has almost nothing to do with how much stretching you did today. It comes down to a single muscle that most people never once stop to think about, and once you understand how to switch it on, the fix turns out to be far simpler than you would ever have guessed. Let me tell you what that muscle is. It is your calf. Doctors call it the calf muscle pump, and a lot of us call it your second heart, which is not some sweet little figure of speech dreamed up to sound clever. Every single time your calf muscle tightens, it clamps down on the deep veins buried inside your lower leg and physically shoves blood upward against the pull of gravity, back toward your chest. Tiny one-way valves inside those veins snap firmly shut behind each push, so the blood is not allowed to slide back down. That is the pump. That is your second heart, quietly working away every time you take a step. The trouble is what happens to that pump after you cross 60. The walls of the veins grow weaker and stretchier. Those little valves begin to leak, and the calf muscle itself shrinks and loses its power, especially if you spend a good part of the day sitting, which, let us be honest, most of us do. So the pump slows down, and when it slows, the blood stalls at your ankles instead of climbing where it should. The swelling gets worse. The feet get colder. The skin down there starts running short on the oxygen it needs, and the less you move, the weaker that pump becomes, which in turn makes you move even less. It quietly becomes a slow downward spiral, and an enormous number of people are somewhere on it without ever realizing. Now, here is the good news, and it truly is good news. Fixing this does not depend on how far you walk or how long you stretch. It depends on a small handful of very specific movements that physically push the blood back up to where it belongs. I am going to walk you through 5 of them, in order, counting down from 5 to 1. Each one does something the one before it could not manage on its own, and I am deliberately saving the single most powerful movement for the very end, the one exercise that vascular rehabilitation programs all over the world lean on more heavily than any other to get the blood flowing again after 60. If you take only one single thing away from this entire video, it is going to be number 1. But you will understand it far more deeply if we build our way up to it together, step by careful step. One quick thing before we start the countdown, because it genuinely matters to me that you hear it. Everything I am about to show you is one piece of a much larger picture. The small daily habits that quietly decide whether you are still walking strong and steady at 80 or reaching for a cane at 70. So I took everything I tell my own patients about staying mobile and independent through these years, and I put it all into one simple plan. It has already helped thousands of people live their best life after 60. If you would like it, the link is right there on your screen. You do not need to write a single thing down, and I promise I will never make you sit through me reading out a long web address. Now, before we get to the movements, let me tell you about someone. I am going to call her Margaret, and she is really a blend of several patients I have cared for over the years, so nobody's privacy is ever on the line. Margaret was 72, sharp as a tack, still driving herself everywhere, still hosting her grandchildren every Sunday afternoon. But her feet were cold every single night, even in the thick of summer, and her ankles turned soft and swollen by the time dinner rolled around. She had been faithfully stretching every morning for years, and she was quietly heartbroken that it simply was not helping. Keep Margaret tucked in the back of your mind, because what finally changed things for her is the entire point of this video. Let us begin the countdown at number 5. Movement number 5, the ankle pump. Now, this one looks almost too simple to be worth your time, and that is precisely why so many people wave it away and skip right past it. It is very often the first movement patients are given after leg surgery before they are even allowed to stand up, precisely because it stops the blood from pooling while they heal. The reason it works is beautifully straightforward. When you flex your foot up and then point it back down, your calf contracts and then relaxes, and that motion squeezes the veins and gets the blood that has been sitting stagnant around your ankles moving again. A 2025 review published in the Journal of Orthopedic Surgery and Research gathered up 16 separate randomized trials and found that simple ankle pumping improved blood flow back up the leg and brought down lower leg swelling in older adults, with no standing and no walking required at all. The whole key is to do it slowly, with control, and to do it often. To do it right, sit in a chair with your feet flat on the floor. Lift your toes up toward your shins while you keep your heels planted firmly down. Then reverse it. Press your toes down into the floor and lift your heels the way you would ease your foot onto a gas pedal. Slow and deliberate. That is 1 repetition. Aim for 20 to 30 of them, 2 or 3 times a day. You can do this while you watch television, while you read the paper, while you sit at the kitchen table waiting for the kettle to boil. It costs you nothing but a few quiet minutes. Think for a moment about how much time you spend sitting, in the car, at meals, in your favorite chair through the whole evening. All of that is time your pump is switched off and blood is quietly settling into your feet. Ankle pumps switch it right back on without you ever getting up. But ankle pumps only wake the system up. The next movement goes after the bigger muscles higher up your leg. Number 4, the seated leg lift. And if you are sitting there thinking that being seated must make this an easy one, your legs are going to tell you a very different story about 10 seconds in. When you straighten your leg out in front of you and hold it there, you fire the big muscles across the front of your thigh and the muscles at the front of your hip. Those are the exact muscles you rely on to push yourself up out of a chair, to climb a flight of stairs, to catch yourself the instant you start to go down. And when they contract, they press against the large veins running up through your thigh and help drive the blood up and out of the leg. This matters far more than most people ever realize. Geriatric doctors track something called gait speed, which is simply how fast you walk. They call it the 6th vital sign, right up there with your pulse and your blood pressure, because how fast you walk turns out to predict your fall risk, your independence, and even how long you are likely to live. When walking slows down, it is very often one of the very first quiet signals that the body is losing ground. Strengthening the muscles that carry you is exactly how you defend that ground. So here is how you do it. Sit up tall in a sturdy chair with your back pressed firmly against the seat and both feet flat on the floor. Slowly lift one leg straight out in front of you, keeping the knee as straight as is comfortable for you. Hold it there for 2 seconds, then lower it back down slowly without letting the foot just flop to the floor. That is 1 repetition. Do 10 to 15 on one leg, then switch over to the other side. The detail nearly everyone misses is the back. Keep it firmly pressed against the chair so you cannot cheat by rocking and borrowing momentum. That is what forces the right muscles to genuinely do the work, and that is exactly where the circulation benefit comes from. As it starts to feel easy, add a little resistance, a light ankle weight, or a resistance band looped around your foot. Even 1 or 2 pounds makes a real difference. Muscle responds to gentle, steady load at any age at all, and older adults very often improve faster than they ever expected, simply because they are starting from further back. But even strong thighs will not protect you if your balance system is not firing the way it should. And that is exactly where we go next. Number 3, the supported calf raise. This is the movement that trains your circulation and your balance at the very same time, and balance is the quiet thing that decides whether a person keeps their independence or slowly loses it. The National Institute on Aging is very clear on this point. Keeping your lower body muscles strong is one of the very best things you can do to hold on to your mobility as you get older, to keep rising out of chairs, off the couch, up the stairs, without needing a helping hand. And your calves sit right at the very center of that. Every time they contract, they squeeze those deep veins and force blood upward against gravity. Weak calves mean the blood pools, the swelling climbs, and your balance reactions get just a little bit slower, so an ordinary stumble is far more likely to turn into an actual fall. Let me pause for just 1 second here, because I owe you a small favor ask, and this is the natural spot for it. If any of this has been useful to you so far, please subscribe, tap that like button, and leave me a comment telling me which of these 5 movements you are going to start with today. I read every single comment that comes in, and it honestly shapes what I make next for you. That is it. Now, back to your calves. To do a supported calf raise, stand behind a sturdy chair or at a kitchen counter and rest your hands on it lightly for balance. Feet about hip-width apart. Rise up slowly onto the balls of your feet, lifting your heels as high as is comfortable. At the top, pause for 2 or 3 seconds and keep your eyes looking straight ahead rather than down at your feet. Then lower yourself slowly, taking a full 3 seconds to come back down. That slow tempo and that little pause at the top are where the real work happens. It makes your calf muscles and your balance system fire together, which is the precise thing your body has to do when you catch yourself mid-stumble. Start with 10 of them. Build toward 20 or 25 as you grow stronger. Over just a few weeks, this one movement improves your ankle stability, your circulation, and how fast you react, all at once, and it does all of that without pounding on your knees or your hips. But standing on 2 feet is the gentle version. The next movement takes one of them away. Number 2, the single leg stance hold. Now, before you wave this one off as just balance with nothing to do with your blood, let me give you the number that made me take it completely seriously. Back in 2022, researchers publishing in the British Journal of Sports Medicine followed more than 1,700 adults for several years. They found that the people who could not stand on one leg for just 10 seconds had an 84% higher risk of dying over the years that followed, compared with the people who could hold it. 84%. And here is the part that stops me every single time. Among adults in their early 70s, fewer than half of them could pass that simple test. A 10-second balance check told those researchers more about the road ahead than almost anything else they measured. You can actually try this one right now, carefully, with a counter or a solid chair right beside you. Stand up tall, put one hand near something you can grab, lift 1 foot an inch or 2 off the floor, and see whether you can hold it steady for 10 seconds without grabbing on. That is the test, and it also happens to be the exercise. The reason it does so much for your blood flow comes down to time. The instant you stand on one leg, your calf, your ankle, your hip, and your core all have to contract and keep contracting to hold you upright. That sustained squeeze keeps the pump running the entire time, pushing blood up instead of letting it settle back down into your foot. Ordinary walking never asks for that, because you are on one foot for only a split second and then you are off it again. Standing on one leg forces the pump to stay switched on, and this is the exact spot where circulation and fall prevention completely overlap. To train it, stand next to a counter or a wall with one hand resting lightly on it for safety. Shift your weight onto one leg and lift the other foot just an inch off the floor. You do not need to lift it high at all. Stand tall, eyes forward, and do not curl your toes to grip the ground. Hold for 20 to 30 seconds, breathing normally the whole time, then switch legs. That is one set. Start with 2 rounds on each side. As it gets easier, rest your hand on the counter more and more lightly, until eventually you can hover it just above the surface without actually touching it at all. But balance on its own keeps you upright without fully restoring the flow. For that, you need the single strongest version of the calf pump there is, and that is number 1. Number 1, the standing calf pump hold. This is the movement I promised you all the way back at the start. And once you understand what it is doing inside your leg, you will see exactly why vascular rehabilitation programs across the entire world use it almost the way they would use a prescription. It looks a great deal like the calf raise from number 3, with one small difference that changes absolutely everything. The hold. You rise up onto the balls of your feet, and then you stay right there. Your calves work like pressure pumps, and holding at the top keeps that pump fully squeezed long enough to genuinely clear out the blood that has been stalling around your ankles and drive it up toward your heart. Ankle pumps wake the system up. The single leg hold trains your control. This movement moves the blood of all, and it keeps it moving. And the evidence behind it is real, not hand-waving. In a randomized trial published in the Journal of Vascular Surgery, people with genuinely poor leg circulation who did a simple program built around calf raise exercise were able to walk significantly farther before the pain set in. Their pain-free walking distance improved by dozens of meters, and their total walking distance by close to 100, with no medication and no machine involved anywhere at all. That is the calf pump doing the job it was built to do. Here is how to do it safely. Stand behind a chair or at a counter, hands resting there for your balance, feet about hip-width apart. Rise up slowly onto the balls of your feet, heels lifting as high as is comfortable. Now hold it, 3 to 5 seconds at the very top, breathing normally, eyes forward. Then lower yourself back down slowly, about 3 seconds to come all the way down. That is 1 repetition. Start with 8 to 10 of them, work up over time to 15 or 20, always with control, never rushing. The hold is the entire point. That sustained squeeze keeps the pump fully engaged, drives the blood up, brings the swelling down, and strengthens the exact muscles your body reaches for when you catch yourself. And because there is no jumping and no pounding anywhere in it, it is gentle enough for most people with arthritis or shaky balance, as long as you keep one hand resting on that counter. So let me tell you what changed for Margaret, because this is where all of it finally landed for her. I had her stop obsessing over her stretching routine and instead do these 5 movements, in order, for about 12 minutes a day. Ankle pumps in her chair first thing in the morning, seated leg lifts, the supported calf raises at the kitchen counter while her coffee brewed, the balance holds, and the standing calf pump holds right at the very end. Now I am going to be honest with you about her result, because I always am. Her circulation did not transform into a 30-year-old's overnight, and I would never dream of promising you that. But within a few short weeks, her ankles were not ballooning up by dinner time anymore. Her feet were warmer at night. And the thing she told me she cared about the very most, she stopped feeling like she might tip right over whenever she got up off the couch. She felt steady again. For a woman who had been quietly terrified of falling, that was everything in the world. Before I send you off, I owe you one honest caution, because I would much rather you be safe than sorry. If you ever get sudden, severe pain in one leg, or a leg turns pale and cold and numb out of nowhere, or you have a sore on your foot or ankle that simply will not heal, please do not sit at home doing exercises. That is the kind of thing you get looked at quickly, because it can mean an artery is seriously blocked, and that is a genuine emergency. Everything I have shown you today is meant for the slow, chronic, everyday poor circulation, not for a sudden crisis like that. So there they are, 5 movements that wake up your second heart and get the blood moving back up and out of your legs. Let me give you a fast recap. Number 5, ankle pumps, to wake the pump up. Number 4, seated leg lifts, to move blood up through the thighs. Number 3, supported calf raises, for circulation and balance together. Number 2, the single leg hold, for that long, steady squeeze and the balance that keeps you upright. And number 1, the standing calf pump hold, the most powerful of them all, the one I would pick without a moment of hesitation if you forced me to choose only one. Keep stretching, by the way. Stretching is wonderful and I never want you to stop doing it. But stretching alone leaves a real gap. And these 5 movements are what fill it. They take less than 15 minutes a day, they cost you nothing at all, and you can do every single one of them at home, right in front of the television. Your circulation is one of the very few things about getting older where you actually get a real honest vote. This is exactly how you cast it. If this helped you today, go ahead and subscribe so the next one finds its way to you. Give this video a like and tell me down in the comments which movement you are starting with first. Take good care of those legs of yours.